Okay, hi everybody. Last week I told you about how Paul had been in Jerusalem and then he was almost killed by the Jews there, and the Romans rescued him and ended up taking him to a place called Caesarea, which we talked about before, a little seaport place, to keep him safe. They had heard that there was a plot to kill him, and so they had gotten lots of soldiers and taken him in the middle of the night to Caesarea. Well, 5 days later, after he got to Caesarea, all of those priests and others that were against Paul, that wanted him to die, came up to see the governor there in Caesarea. Now, his name was Felix. And let me just tell you about him. Felix, he had been a slave in the past, and he still had a chip on his shoulder. He must have still been mad about everything that happened to him, because he had been freed from being a slave and even made a governor, someone who was over a whole lot of other people, but he was a vengeful man. That means he was full of revenge, he was full of hatred, he was dishonest, he loved to take bribes, he liked to get money from people to make judgments. If he was the judge in a case, he would take money and then say what that person wanted him to say. And he was married to a young Jewish girl. So she was kind of interested in what Paul had to say. So 5 days after Paul arrived in Caesarea, the Jewish high priest Ananias and other of the religious leaders from Jerusalem came up to accuse him to Felix. And they brought along an orator. The Bible calls him an orator. He was like a lawyer. He was someone who had been trained to talk well, to convince people of things. So this man's name was Turtulos, and he came up with them to accuse Paul to Felix, to see if they could get Felix to kill Paul. So Tertullus, he came up and he started in on his oration. He said, "Oh, most noble Felix, we are so thankful that because of you, we Jews enjoy such a peaceful life. You do such good things for us. Now, I don't want to bore you, but I humbly ask you will just listen to a few words out of your great patience." So what's he doing? He's buttering him up. He is flattering Felix to get Felix to listen to his side of things. So Tertullus continued, and he said, "We found this man to be a pestilent fellow." Okay. So you know what pestilence is? It's like when a bunch of locusts come and eat all the crops or something like that. So there's no food left. It can make people starve. Like, it's a pestilence, a horrible thing that can happen. So he calls Paul a pestilence. And then he says, "This pestilent fellow, he came causing trouble among all the Jews in the whole world." Now, of course, he was talking about the Roman Empire, because that was the world as they knew it. He's causing trouble in the whole world among the Jews. He's a ringleader in a group we would call a gang now, in a group of troublemakers. So he was talking about Jesus and the disciples. "Oh, he's a ringleader in this group," they said. "He has polluted our temple, profaned our temple, our holy temple, and we would have judged him ourselves by our law. But the chief captain of the Romans came and violently took him away." You see all these lovely adjectives that he's adding to color what he's saying, to sound bad. We've got pestilent, troublemaker, ringleader. He's polluting the temple, profaning the temple. The chief captain violently took him away. He's using these to create an emotion in Felix, so he can try to get Felix on his side. And then he says, "This chief captain came and took him violently out of our hands and commanded us to come to you. When you examine him, Turtulos said, you will find all this to be true. And then the other Jews that were there, they all supported, oh yeah, that's true. He's saying the truth. You will find him to be pestilent and evil. So then Felix gave Paul a chance to speak. And Paul said, since I know that you have been a judge of this nation for many years, I feel better explaining it to you. He's like, I know that you've been here for a while, so you understand the way the Jews think and what their law is and all that sort of thing. So I feel better trying to explain this to you. He said, it's only been 12 days since I came to Jerusalem to worship at the temple. And so I haven't been here very long at all. And they never saw me, they never found me arguing with anyone. They never saw me stirring up the people anywhere in the whole city. They can't prove any of the things that they're saying to you, that they're accusing me of. However, I will confess to this, he said to Felix, I do worship the God of my fathers in a way that they call heresy. He's saying, I do worship God in a way that they don't like. Paul said, I believe everything written in the scriptures, and I have hope in a resurrection of the dead, life after death. Remember, that was how he got the Sadducees and the Pharisees to turn against each other in Jerusalem, by saying he believed in the resurrection of the dead. Paul said, my conscience is clear. You know, that feeling that you have when you've done something wrong? He said, I don't have that. I know that I didn't do anything wrong. He said, my conscience is clear towards God and towards men. I simply went to Jerusalem for the first time in many years, and they found me quietly worshiping in the temple, minding my own business. And the only thing they actually have against me is that I said that I believe in resurrection, the resurrection of the dead. So Felix listened to all this, and he did understand quite a bit about the Jewish religion and the Jewish nation. So he recognized absolutely that Paul had done nothing worthy of death. He realized that Turtulos and the high priest had brought him there because of hatred and jealousy, and that Paul was actually innocent. However, remember, Felix was not a good guy. He wanted money. He kept Paul there imprisoned because he really wanted someone to come with a bunch of money and say, here, I'll give you all this money if you'll set him free. But he didn't get his money. So then he still kept Paul in prison because he wanted to have the Jews behave themselves. He didn't want them to get all riotous and him having to look bad by having the people that he was ruling get into fights and cause riots and things. Then the Roman government in Italy would look at him and be like, you're not doing a very good job. And they would get mad at him. And so he kept Paul in prison to keep the Jews happy. Well, this went on for quite some time. Felix brought his wife, this picture again. Felix even brought his wife to come and listen to what Paul had to say. They thought, this is really curious, really interesting. Why do the Jews hate him so much? And so they let him talk about Jesus and about resurrection from the dead. And Paul talked about righteousness. And he talked about a judgment to come. And Felix was convicted because he knew that he was not innocent. He was an evil man. And the Bible says he actually trembled. He was under so much conviction. He was so afraid of the final judgment of mankind that he trembled, but he never accepted Jesus' sacrifice and gift of salvation for himself. He wasn't sorry for his sins, and so he did not become a Christian. Well, he kept him in jail for 2 years. And then the Roman government, for whatever reason, took Felix out of there and replaced him with a man called Festus. When Festus came, the high priest thought, oh, I have another chance to get at Paul and maybe kill him. So he came and accused Paul again to Festus and asked him to take him to Jerusalem so that maybe they could kill Paul on the way. But Festus said no. He said, you can come here and accuse him if you want. So here they go again. They had another trial. They accused Paul again. But once again, they had no proof. At the end of it, Paul appealed to Caesar. He knew that whoever was the ruler in Caesarea was going to keep him in prison in order to keep the other Jews happy. And so he said, I want to go to the court where Caesar is. In other words, he wanted to go to Italy, to Rome, to the court there. And because he was a Roman citizen, they had to send him there. Even though they knew he was innocent, they had to send him there because Paul had requested it. Well, Festus was going to have to write a letter of introduction to the people in Rome to say why he was sending this dangerous criminal to Rome to go to be judged there. And he knew there was nothing to say. It didn't even make sense. Why was he even in prison? Why was he even having to go to court? So he was thinking, what can I even say? And then he got visitors. King Agrippa and his wife came. His wife was named Bernice. And they came to visit Festus, and Festus was telling them about Paul, and they said, you know what? Well, we've heard about him too. We'd like to actually hear what he has to say. So they called Paul. They got him out of prison to come and talk to them, and Paul told them all about why the Jews hated him, told all about how Jesus had appeared to him, told them about how Jesus had risen from the dead, and that there was new life in Christ, and all of these different things. And Festus, his conclusion was, he said, oh, much learning has made you mad. You are nuts from studying too much, Paul. You need to get out more, get some fresh air and sunshine. Of course, he didn't say that exactly. He said, much learning has made you mad. But King Agrippa, he knew more maybe, or maybe he understood more. His heart was different than Festus. When he heard what Paul had to say, he said, almost you have persuaded me to be a Christian. He was so close. He said, almost. And Paul said, I wish that you and everyone here were not only almost, but completely persuaded to be a Christian like me. But as far as we know, King Agrippa did not take that step and ask for salvation from his sins and become a Christian. And so they had to send Paul to Italy. And he was going to go with a bunch of other prisoners in a big ship. Where's my map again? He was going to go be sent to Rome. So he was going to leave Caesarea in a big boat with a bunch of other criminals, prisoners, and get all the way over, oh, it's not even here on our map, past Greece over here to Italy to go to Rome. And we will hear more about that next week. You can see how Paul was not afraid. He had been told before he went to Jerusalem that he would be tied up, that he would be persecuted, and he knew that, and he went anyways. And then after he didn't just sit there and cry in his cell. He was able to come out and talk to all the people that were accusing him and tell them about how they could be saved too. And now he knew that this was his opportunity to go to Rome itself, that big, huge city, and share the gospel with the people there. And he was probably excited about that, even though he was a prisoner. He might die. He was probably excited to be able to go there and share the gospel with a bunch of more people who had not heard it before. And so that's the end of what I have for you this week, and we will hear more of what happened to Paul next week. Thanks.